Assalamu alaikum. Welcome again to ChadNass TV. I'm so happy to talk to you today. I hope you are keeping well. So, as I said in my previous video, that this one will be a continuation to the passive voice. And today I'm going to talk about passive voice and all the exceptions that we can encounter. So I'm going to begin with the first exception that we can meet when dealing with passive voice. I mean, when moving from active to passive voice. As we said in the previous video, that we should remember this, that an active voice should contain this structure: subject, verb, and object, in order to make it into a passive voice. Now I'm going to talk about the first exception. So here, this video would be about exceptions. So the first exception is with verbs, with some verbs. Verbs such as give, then, offer, then, send. I'm going to focus on these three verbs. What do you mean by this? These verbs can make the exception in the passive voice. I can give you a sentence with one of these verbs. For example here, my father offered me a laptop. Okay. This is a very simple sentence. As you may see, it is an active voice. But first, let's analyze and try to be sure about this, about its constituents. So my father is a subject, then offered is a verb. Now, as I said in my previous video, when you arrive to the verb, ask the question, offered what? Have you found the answer? Offered what? Offered a laptop. So a laptop is an object. But what about this one? Me. It's another object. Now we can say that we have S, V, O, and O. But this one is a direct object, and this one is an indirect object. And both of them are objects that can take this place. So in this case, when we have SVOO, meaning that we can have two passive voice. Okay? So let's do the passive voice number one. Passive voice number one. And remember, please, remember the steps, the 4 steps I told you in my previous video, which is number 1, number 2, and number 3, and number 4. Okay? So it will become like this. We are going to apply the same strategy. Okay. Let's begin with number 1. Where is number 1? So we can begin. We have a choice here. We can begin with this object or this object, but the same strategy. Okay. Let's begin with the direct object. So it become a laptop, and now this is number 1. Remember, this is number 1. What about number 2? What do we need in number 2? We need to be, okay, because it's necessary. So to be here will be in simple past, as we said before. Simple past. So, and we have one laptop. So it becomes was. If we have many laptops, we say were, but here we have only one laptop. So it becomes was. This is number 2. Then number 3, can you remember number 3? So offered in past participle. So because offered is a regular verb, so there is no change in past participle. We keep it as it is. So we say was offered. No change because it's a regular verb. Then this is number 3. Was offered. Now we should not ignore this me. So offered to me. To me. And then we know the door. So this is number 4. We say by my father. This is what? This is number 4. Now let's move to the second case or passive voice number 2. Now we can do like this. Now because we have near the first sentence we have done, we have worked with direct object, now we need to work with indirect object. So me, we know that me is an object. So what is a personal subject? When we move it to the subject possession, it will be what? We're not going to say me, okay. Me is an object, so it will be a subject. So when we move to me, it will be I. Okay, this is number 1. What number 2? I. Number 2. Keep the order, please. I was. This is number 2. I was what? Number 3. I was offered. Offered. This is number 3. Offered what? Offered what? Offered a laptop. And then we can stop here, why not? And it's correct. But if you want to finish the sentence, we can say by my father. And this is what? This is number 4. Is it clear? So this is the first exception. Now I hope you have understood this. So pay attention, we can use offer or give or send. Is it clear? Now we move to the second exception. Which would concern tense. We know in English we have simple tenses and past sentences. What do you mean by simple tenses? A simple tense is when we have only the verb. We use only a verb, like what? Like simple present, and simple past. Example: I work, he works, I did my homework. So we notice we use only the verb. But what about the compound tenses? And we know that there are many compound tenses. What do you mean by tense compound? So there is auxiliary plus verb. And there are many tenses that have this form. We have, for example, present continuous, and for example, past perfect, where we have what, and so on. Okay, there are many other compound tenses. So we have auxiliary. For example, here, present continuous, we have to be plus verb plus ing. Here, past perfect, we have had and plus verb in past participle. Now let's see this compound tenses in active voice. We say, and this is exception number 2. Remember the sentence I gave you last time. The boy, for example, has broken the vases. Pay attention, the vases. So we have subject, we have verb, vases, object, and pay attention to the singular and plural. Here we have vases, plural. So what about this one? It's an auxiliary. So what would happen here when we move to the passive voice? Passive voice would be like this. So remember number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's begin with the vases. So the vases, the plural. Now we have a new subject, and number 2. Number 2 is not to be, but we have to put the auxiliary first, and that's the exception I'm talking about. So here has goes with the boy because the boy is singular. Now we have a new subject, so has will change. We'll go with the new subject, and because the new subject is the plural, so we don't say has but have, and this is number 2. Number 1, number 2. So have goes with the vases, not with the boy. Have Why been? We said this is the rule. This is number 3. So this is to be because the verb is in past participle. So to be must be also in past participle. So we finish. The vases have been broken by the boy. Okay? So this is number 4 and yes, this is number 2, number 3 and number 4. So is it clear? That's the second exception, and I hope you have understood well what do you mean by these. What do you mean by these 2 exceptions? So in my next video, I will continue talking about some other exceptions in the passive voice. So thank you so for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe. Okay, and see you in my next video.